Alright, good evening everybody. Welcome to the studio. This is Mark Dyer. Don't know how much you can see of me. I'm kind of working blind here with the camera, so bear with me. So I finally got everything I need to pull a state proof. I'm not going to use any good paper. I'm going to use just a plain bond paper here tonight, because all I'm trying to do is just figure out if this block is carved the way I want it before I start producing my final edition on it. So I'm going to jump right into this and kind of go through some things real quick. This is a new ink for me, so this is going to be a Speedball super graphic black ink that I'm using. It's a water-based ink, and so we're going to see how it works out. I have not used this before, but it comes highly recommended. So what you'll find is they have a piece of like electrical tape around the ring, and that's to keep them from drying out when you get them. So if you're going to use the cans, try to put that tape back on, or get another roll of tape and tape it closed. And I'll show you another little trick here in just a second if I can get this open. I guess I should have practiced this, huh? Who'd have known it would have been such a challenge? Anyway, so here's the ink, and I'm going to use an ordinary putty knife to get this out, but I'm not going to dig in it and pull it out. What I'm going to do, it's like frosting a cake. I'm going to just kind of gently take a top layer, and I'm not going to take very much. And as you can see, this has a little plastic lid on it, and that actually might even be enough for us when we get that out. So I'm going to take that, and I'm just going to scoop that off of there. We're going to lay this on the piece of marble I have here. And it's not going to take very much, because I'm just going to pull a couple proofs. So we'll lay that right there. And then what I'm going to do, if you can see, I'm hoping, I'm not digging down into it. I'm just kind of turning this and just scraping the top of that. And that's got me a nice little dab of ink. That's probably more than I need, but that's all right to get us started. And I'm just going to kind of make a patch here with this. And then I'm going to set this someplace where it's not going to get all over. I have some wax papers that I cut into a circle, the bottom of the can. And what you're going to do is you're going to push this back down and start from the center and kind of work your way towards the edge. And what you want to do is make sure you get all your air bubbles out of there. And that'll help reseal that ink so it doesn't dry out over time. It'll save you a lot of time and effort in the long run. And hang on just a second, I'll like grab me a rag. Sorry about that. I was mostly prepared, I guess. So, if you don't like your hands messy, you can use the little rubber gloves. I usually do that. I don't know why I didn't put it on this time. So I'm going to take a brayer and see my ink isn't quite spread out far enough. So I'm going to roll it, make it just a little bit wider patch. I'm going to try to get that nice and even across there, just like that. I'm going to stick that back there. So now you can see it's as wide as my brayer. And I'm going to roll in one direction, and I'm going to pick it up. And what this should start doing is it should start not sticking. There we go. So I don't know if you can hear that or not. It's got a little tacky sound to it. And that's what I'm looking for, is that sound. And that tells me that I've got it laid out enough. We're not rolling here, so this is always a risky proposition when you're doing live. So there we go. And now you can kind of hear that. So what you want to do is you don't want to come back into the layer of ink you have back here, because I've got enough out here. So I'm just kind of widening this out and making sure my whole brayer is filled. You can hear that tack, and it's got a nice tack, even sound all the way across it, so that tells me I've got a nice even layer of ink. I'm going to come over here, I'm going to roll it out on my block. And this is going to be a state proof, so the beginning of this, they're not going to be all of that. Well printed, because you have to build up that ink over a couple of prints on your block. You can see how nicely that's starting to come up. And again, this is just a state proof. I'm just kind of basically looking for anything that I might want to change before I go to print the edition. Again, and now I'm going to go the other direction. Make sure I'm getting this layered out really well. A little more ink. I'm going to come back in and pick up just a little bit more. There we go. We've got a good sound going. So when I start my blocks, usually what I do is I put a layer of sanding sealer on them. And what that does is it gives me a nice even board to work with, so I'm not really porous in one spot and really closed in another spot as far as the grains go. So that kind of evens it out. So again, this is just going to be a quick proof. Not going to be really worried about the quality of it, other than I just want to see where it's at. And you can see I've got a little jig going in here. But there's the block. And so that's kind of what it'll come out to be. But it's going to be reversed now. Everything is going to be come in reverse. So I'm going to fold this piece of just plain bond paper down over it. I'm going to lightly smooth it out, make sure I don't have any air bubbles going. I got a little something there, I don't know what it is, but that's alright. A little piece of wood or something. I'm going to take my bearing and I'm just going to go over the paper real soft. You can see I'm not applying a lot of pressure, but just trying to be consistent in working that paper down into that bed of ink. Work it a little bit more. And then I've got this pinned down, so what I can do is I can lift it up and see how well I'm doing. If I were doing addition, what I would probably do is double check it again. But here's kind of my first pass, and again, because the block isn't loaded with ink, it's not going to be real full. I'm going to give it just one more once over, maybe a little bit more pressure, not a lot. Like I said, this is a new ink for me, so I'm learning this along with you guys. So everything that I'm doing is readily available and readily inexpensive, so if this is a medium you're interested in, by all means, I'd say give it a shot and see how it goes. And there we go. I'm going to pull these pins out and I'm going to give you a little look at it, and then we'll do one more print and then I'll call it a night. So I think I'm pretty close to where I want to be on my edition. But you can see I'm still a little light in some areas with the ink, but again, it has to build up over time. But it's looking pretty good. I really like that, really pleased with the way it's coming out. I don't see too many things that I want to change, but after I get a minute I'll look at it again and see. So I'm going to go and I'm going to put a piece of paper on and get it registered on the block before I go to print again. It just makes it easier. Kind of hold up here. I've kind of already got, I got a little piece of tape here that I'm going up against just to hold the edge of that paper where I want it. I'm going to put a little thumbtack there. I'm going to come down and flush it with that, put the tack back in. I can lay it right over that way. When I'm ready to print, I can just flip it back down. So we're going to grab a little more ink here. And again, I'm not real familiar with this. I do have some extender clear base, so it might come to the point where we need to do that. Again, I'm experimenting with this for you guys, and you can watch and learn from my mistakes. So a little more ink. It's starting to sound pretty good. We're going to give it another coat here. I'm sorry, I've got my camera turned where I can't see if you're who's watching and who's not and who's commenting, and so I apologize for that. What you want to make sure as you go through is this brayer doesn't tip back and forth as you roll across the box. You want to make sure you're hitting on a nice level surface there on your block, or you can feel that with your hand. So I'm going to ink this up just a little heavier, roll some more out. I think I did a pretty good job. I'm anxious to see how the cleanup is with this, because normally it would take me probably a half hour just to clean this off with some xylene and mineral spirits. And it's a mess, and it's stinky, and man, it just messes up your whole day. So we're going to go another. What I try to always do is do the same directions with the inks, and then just before I print, we're going to strike it off. That just helps give you a nice, consistent, even look on your block. And you can see it. You can't probably see it on the camera, but you can see the way it's absorbing on here. I'm going to, like I said, under normal circumstances, you'll pull probably 3, 4, maybe 5 state proofs before you even get the block completely loaded. But because I plan on working on this again, I'm not going to worry about getting it too filled with ink. But we're coming along pretty good. So. I'm getting a little heavy because I'm getting impatient with this. I want to get it printed. So. All right, just strike it off one more time and pull a print. So these brayers come and they've got a little hump here so that you always turn it upside down and set it on that, so it keeps it off the surface, and that also helps keep that roller from getting a spot on it, a wear spot or a flat spot. I'm going to flip my paper down, take my bearing, and I'll show you how to make a little bit better jig. This was just kind of a quick little rush through, but I'll show you how to make one that's adjustable, so you don't have to always try to set this. I just wanted to get a print pulled. I'm anxious. I'm still waiting on some temping paper for my press, so I was trying to hold off until I had that so I could also show the difference between these, but that's all right. Take it one step at a time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch bearings here. This is kind of a modern bearing. This is the old style with the bamboo. And you can see the difference. Not really much. Same technique, just kind of working it around my print. If I was going to go for final print by hand, what I would do after I'm done is I would take a large tablespoon with a nice rounded edge, and I would kind of just gently go over it with that tablespoon, and what that does is help me define those lines and get some really nice hard edges on things. So, alrighty, let's pull it up and see what we're looking like. Oh yeah, you can see the difference. So, the block is starting to fill. So I'll pull this off, show you guys a shot of it, and I'll let you go on your way. So here's the second state proof, and you can see how the ink is building up. So here's my first one and here's my second one. So you can see how that block is filling up. I'm not quite sure where the camera is there. So this is the second print and this is the first print. So I'm going to shut off the camera and probably pull a couple more. I'm pretty happy with this, so I'll probably start printing an edition here pretty soon. Normally I would print on a kitakata or a hosho paper, both Japanese handmade papers. They're pretty spendy, but for what I'm doing, so I can show you guys, I've also got some speedball block printing paper that I'm going to use for that, so you can see the difference in what I'm doing. Again, so that way if you decide you want to try this at home, you're not investing a lot of money And it's really, you know, this is just a fold out table, so this is kind of the process that you could do even in your own home and studio, warmer weather maybe in the garage or you know, something like that. Printmaking is pretty cool medium. I've always enjoyed it. So anyway, we'll talk to you later. Thank you.